What if everything you've been taught about strength is a lie? A carefully crafted illusion designed to keep you tethered to weakness? What if the qualities you've been urged to embrace, transparency, vulnerability, the relentless need to prove your worth, are not the pillars of power, but the chains that bind you to fragility? Society has conditioned you to believe that strength lies in exposing your soul, in spilling your thoughts, fears, and doubts like water onto barren ground. They call this openness honesty. They call it courage. They call it authenticity. But let me unveil a stark truth. Such exposure is not strength, it is self-betrayal. True power does not proclaim itself with fanfare. It does not kneel at the altar of confession. Power thrives in secrecy, in the deliberate curation of what is revealed and what is concealed. The person who bears their heart invites the dagger. The one who guards their silence, however, commands fear, respect, and awe in equal measure. Weakness flourishes in the blinding light of exposure, but strength is forged in the shadows of restraint. Pause and reflect on this. The modern world worships the spectacle of openness, urging you to broadcast every fleeting thought on digital screens, to confide your deepest insecurities to strangers under the guise of connection, to believe that the fleeting applause of a crowd equates to validation. But applause is not power, it is a mirage, a seductive drug for those too fragile to bear the weight of silence. The person who craves constant approval is no better than a beggar, draped in fine garments, their strength dependent on the fickle whims of others. When those whims shift, as they inevitably will, they are left with nothing, not even their own sense of self. This is the great deception of our age. The very things you're told will make you powerful are the mechanisms that strip you of agency. To erase your weakness, you must first see through this lie and embrace the discipline of silence. The historical mirror, lessons from the past. Your story is a relentless teacher, and its lessons are etched in the blood of those who failed to heed them. Those who bared their souls to the world were not crowned, they were crushed. Princes who revealed too much of their hearts were toppled by conspirators who studied their every vulnerability. Leaders who placed blind trust in promises were betrayed by those who saw opportunity in their naivety. Niccolò Machiavelli, the Renaissance master of political strategy, understood this truth when he wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are." This is not cynicism, it is survival. Men judge with their eyes, not their hands. They are swayed by surfaces, not truths. If you show them everything, you surrender your ability to shape their perception. If you let them into your depths, you hand them weapons that will one day be turned against you. Consider Cesare Borgia, Machiavelli's model prince in the turbulent courts of Renaissance Italy. Borgia wielded power not through public confessions, but through calculated secrecy. He revealed only what served his purpose, keeping his true intentions veiled until the moment of action. His enemies, left guessing, faltered in their uncertainty, while Borgia struck with precision, consolidating power in a world where trust was a luxury few could afford. Contrast this with King Louis XII of France, whose open dealings and trust in allies during the Italian wars led to his downfall. His transparency was his undoing, a lesson that echoes through centuries. The Roman Emperor Nero, too, fell victim to this trap, his emotional outbursts and public displays of weakness inviting rebellion and betrayal. History teaches us that those who expose their inner selves invite destruction, while those who master their appearances command empires. This principle is not confined to ancient courts. In the 20th century, leaders like Winston Churchill understood the power of restraint. During World War II, Churchill's public speeches were carefully crafted to inspire, but his private thoughts and doubts were guarded, shared only with a trusted few. His mystique as a resolute leader kept a nation united, while his silence on strategic matters kept enemies guessing. Compare this to figures like Richard Nixon, whose public unraveling during Watergate marked by defensive explanations and emotional exposure eroded his authority. The lesson is timeless. Power belongs to those who control what the world sees, not those who surrender their inner lives to scrutiny. The modern traps, applause, pity, and noise in today's hyper-connected world. The currency of weakness is exposure. The person who posts every thought online, who seeks sympathy by airing their pain, who confesses doubts to rivals, these are the ones who crumble when the tide turns. They mistake attention for loyalty, likes for armor, But attention is as fickle as the wind, shifting direction without warning. Silence, by contrast, is as enduring as granite. Those who face a silent individual lie awake at night, plagued by uncertainty. They cannot discern what you think, what you plan, or what you conceal. And in that uncertainty lies the seed of fear. Let's dissect the traps that ensnare the weak in this modern age. The first is the addiction to applause. The person who seeks constant validation as a performer on a stage they did not build, dancing for a crowd that cheers only for its own amusement. They enter rooms not to command but to be noticed, sharing their every thought not to influence but to be seen. When the crowd tires of them, they are discarded like a broken toy. Think of the social media influencer who thrives on likes and comments, their self-worth tied to the approval of strangers. Their posts, meticulously curated for attention, become a leash, binding them to the algorithm's whims. When the algorithm shifts or the audience moves on, their empire of validation collapses, leaving them exposed and powerless. This is not power, it is servitude dressed in celebration. The second trap is the cult of vulnerability. Society glorifies the act of bearing your wounds, calling it brave, authentic, noble. But vulnerability is not strength, it is predictability. A rival who knows your scars knows where to strike. A competitor who hears your doubts knows how to sow discord. A supposed friend who learns of your weaknesses is only one shift in loyalty away from betrayal. Pity is not loyalty, it is a prelude to abandonment. People may offer sympathy today, but they will not respect you tomorrow, for pity never translates into reverence. Imagine an employee who shares their insecurities with a colleague, hoping for camaraderie, only to find those same insecurities used against them in a promotion battle. Or consider the public figure who confesses their struggles on a talk show, expecting empathy, only to see their words twisted into headlines that mock their fragility. Exposure invites exploitation. The third trap is the endless noise of social chatter. In an era dominated by digital platforms, many confuse communication with influence. They believe that constant posting, speaking, and explaining grants them power. But the opposite is true. The more you speak, the more predictable you become. The more predictable you are, the more controllable you are. Words spoken without calculation are footprints in wet sand, easily followed, easily erased. The strong do not compete in the theater of noise. They withhold, and in withholding, they dominate. While others exhaust themselves shouting into the void, the disciplined calculate in silence, their restraint amplifying their presence. Think of the influencer who overshares every detail of their life, from their morning coffee to their personal struggles. Their audience grows bored, their mystique fades, and their influence wanes. Contrast this with the rare individual who posts sparingly, each word chosen with precision, leaving followers intrigued and eager for more. The power of silence, a weapon. Forged in shadow, she does a lion inspire terror, not merely because of its claws or teeth, but because of the eerie stillness that precedes its attack. The moment of quiet before the leap is more unnerving than the leap itself. An enemy who knows your plans can prepare. An enemy who must guess is already defeated. When you are unreadable, you force others to expend their energy chasing shadows. You remain untouched while they exhaust themselves battling the phantoms of your silence. This is the essence of power. The fox survives through deception, the lion through its decisive strike. But both endure because they remain unseen until the moment of action. To erase your weakness, you must first erase the compulsion to be fully known. You have been conditioned to believe that transparency is noble, that vulnerability is a strength. It is not. It is servitude, a voluntary surrender of your autonomy to the judgment of others. A person who cannot tolerate being misunderstood is destined for chains. True power lies not in explaining yourself, but in mastering what you choose to reveal. To control your revelations is to control the battlefield itself. Let's explore a modern analogy. In a high-stakes poker game, the player who betrays nothing, no twitch, no glance, no careless word holds the advantage. Their opponents, desperate for a tell, make mistakes in their uncertainty. The silent player wins not because of their cards, but because of their unreadability. This principle applies beyond the card table. In a corporate boardroom, the executive who speaks sparingly, choosing their words with precision, commands attention. Their silence forces others to lean in, to wonder what they're holding back. In a social setting, the person who listens more than they speak becomes the enigma, drawing others toward their quiet presence. Even in personal relationships, restraint breeds desire, while oversharing breeds familiarity, and familiarity, as the saying goes, breeds contempt. Consider a historical example from ancient China. The strategist Zhuge Liang once faced an overwhelming enemy force led by Sima Yi. Instead of engaging directly, Zhuge Liang opened the gates of his city and sat calmly on the ramparts, playing a lute, appearing unconcerned. His enemy, unsure of his intentions and fearing a trap, retreated without a fight. Zhuge Liang's silence and apparent confidence turned uncertainty into victory. This is the power of unreadability. A single gesture, a calculated absence of words, can shift the balance of power. The art of unreadability, becoming the storm. Picture the person who enters a room and says nothing, while others fill the air with words, revealing their intentions. The silent one grows larger in their minds. They project suspicion, danger, or superiority onto the quiet figure, wondering what they know, what they intend, while others expose themselves. The silent one observes, their restraint amplifying their presence. This is the rebirth from open victim to silent predator. Unreadability is not absence, it is dominance. Consider the mirror effect. An unreadable person reflects others' insecurities back at them. The fearful see danger, the ambitious see rivalry, the loyal see strength. They do not see you, they see their own minds, distorted and magnified. This is why the unreadable command respect without effort. Their existence destabilizes others, forcing hesitation and granting power without motion. Like a lion waiting in stillness, the silent one's presence causes prey to falter. Like a general hiding their army, the unreadable force their enemies to waste strength in anticipation. Silence is not passivity, it is strategy, the action that precedes victory. Let's delve into another historical example. Queen Elizabeth I of England, known as the Virgin Queen, mastered the art of mystique. She revealed little of her personal desires, keeping her court and foreign allies guessing about her intentions. Her silence on matters of marriage and succession kept potential rivals off balance, while her carefully crafted public image inspired loyalty and fear. This unpredictability allowed her to navigate a treacherous political landscape, outmaneuvering rivals and securing her reign. Her silence was not weakness, it was a weapon that kept her enemies guessing, and her allies loyal out of necessity. In the modern world, this principle is equally potent. Think of a tech visionary like Steve Jobs, whose public appearances were meticulously staged to reveal only what served his narrative. His reticence about Apple's future plans kept competitors scrambling, while his enigmatic persona amplified his influence. Contrast this with public figures who overshare. Like celebrities whose personal dramas dominate tabloids, their exposure strips them of mystique, leaving them vulnerable to ridicule and irrelevance. The lesson is clear: power belongs to those who control their narrative, not those who surrender it. The crucible of rebirth, embracing silence. Rebirth demands ruthlessness, not toward others but toward yourself. You must crucify your need to be understood, murder your addiction to validation, strangle your craving for applause. This self-destruct is the price of survival, and it is not gentle. Silence will feel like suffocation at first. You will feel ignored, erased. But these are the cries of the weak self dying. Endure them, and what remains is steel. Master your words, your expressions, your presence. Every gesture, every withheld word becomes an act of warfare. Others will begin to bend toward you, drawn to your silence, deferring to your unreadable presence. This is power, not an illusion, but a tangible force. Imagine a negotiation. The person who fills the room with words becomes a hostage to their own tongue, revealing their desires and weaknesses. The silent negotiator, however, controls the pace, letting others expose their hands while concealing their own. In relationships, restraint breeds magnetism, while overexposure breeds contempt. Even in the trivial realm of social media, the one who resists broadcasting their life gains intrigue, while the oversharer becomes mundane. Concealment is not cowardice, it is architecture. Every revealed piece of information is a brick removed from your fortress. Every withheld piece is a stone added to your walls. Let's explore a fictional scenario to illustrate this. Imagine two warriors preparing for a duel. The first boasts of his skills, recounts his training, and reveals his strategy to anyone who will listen, hoping to intimidate his opponent. The second remains silent, his expression unreadable, his movements deliberate. On the day of the duel, the first warrior's confidence falters as he faces the unknown. The silent warrior's stillness unnerves him, planting seeds of doubt. When the clash begins, the silent warrior strikes with precision, exploiting the weaknesses his opponent unknowingly revealed. The crowd does not remember the boaster, they remember the victor. Silence was his weapon, and unreadability his shield. The humiliations of weakness, a public execution now. Picture the humiliations that await those who cling to weakness. They chase applause like a starving animal begging for scraps, mistaking fleeting attention for love. They enter rooms not to command, but to be noticed, sharing their every thought not to influence, but to be seen. The crowd may cheer, but they cheer for their own amusement, not for the individual's authority. Such a person is a performer on a stage they did not build, dancing until the audience grows bored and discards them like a broken toy. Oversharing strips them of mystique, leaving them fragile and exposed. Every word of self-exposure etches cracks into their armor, inviting the hammer of betrayal or ridicule. When that hammer falls, it is merciless, for they have already revealed the map of their destruction. History offers stark lessons. Recall Oliverotto da Fermo, as recounted by Machiavelli. He invited his rivals to a feast, lulling them with hospitality and wine. When their guard was down, he signaled his men to slaughter them. Trust became slaughter. Hospitality became execution. The weak believe the table is safe, but the table is a battlefield. The banquet of flattery, the feast of pity, these are traps for the unwary. Imagine a gladiator entering the arena unarmed, believing their words will shield them. They speak of their pain, their fears, hoping the crowd will protect them for their honesty. But the arena rewards blood, not sincerity. The silent gladiator, disciplined and unreadable, conserves their strength and strikes without warning, leaving the sand stained with victory. The crowd does not remember the confessor, they remember the victor. Exposure does not earn admiration. Victory does. Weakness is never a private failure, it is a public execution. Once perceived as weak, a person becomes a target. Friends grow indifferent, rivals grow bold, and even strangers test their resolve. Their collapse becomes entertainment, their downfall a spectacle. To live by applause is to die by ridicule. To live by pity is to die by betrayal. To live by validation is to die by emptiness. The rebirth through silence, forging the unreadable self. Yet from these failures comes the possibility of growth. If one can endure the crucible of humiliation, the truth lies in silence, in concealment, in turning away from the crowd's fleeting approval toward the enduring power of unreadability. Betrayal is the fire that shatters the illusions of false strength. A secret shared with a friend becomes a weapon in an enemy's hand. A confession offered in trust resurfaces as mockery. The collapse is not sudden, it is cumulative, built from countless small exposures. The person who constantly explains themselves chips away at their own fortress. At first, the damage is subtle, a lost opportunity, a tarnished reputation, but the fractures widen. Openness is mistaken for fragility, transparency for incompetence, vulnerability for weakness. But in this collapse lies the seed of rebirth. If one can endure the fire of betrayal and humiliation, they can forge something indestructible. Collapse teaches that reliance on others is slavery. Betrayal teaches that exposure is fatal. Humiliation teaches that validation is poison. From these ashes, a new self can rise, one armored in silence and control. Silence is not emptiness. It is the architecture of power. When you learn to withhold, to resist the urge to explain, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is the root of fear. Let's consider a modern example from the corporate world. A young professional, eager to prove themselves, shares their ambitions and insecurities with colleagues, hoping to build rapport. But those colleagues, sensing weakness, Use this information to undermine them in meetings or take credit for their ideas. Contrast this with the seasoned executive who listens more than they speak, revealing only what advances their goals. Their silence unnerves others who project strength and calculation onto their quiet presence. Over time, the executive rises while the oversharer stagnates, their openness a liability. The psychology of silence. The mirror effect. The psychology of silence is simple yet devastating. When you reveal nothing, others invent everything. They fill the void of your unreadability with their own fears and suspicions. They hesitate, not because of what you've done, but because of what they cannot rule out you might do. Silence multiplies possibilities, and possibilities outweigh facts. Consider the mirror effect. An unreadable person reflects others' insecurities back at them. The fearful see danger, the ambitious see rivalry, the loyal see strength. They do not see you, they see their own minds, distorted and magnified. This is why the unreadable command respect without effort. Their existence destabilizes others, forcing hesitation and granting power without motion. Think of the lion who waits in stillness. Its prey studies the grass, sees nothing, grows anxious, and in that anxiety makes mistakes. The lion's silence is not passivity, it is strategy. Or consider the general who keeps their army hidden behind the hills. The enemy, unsure of numbers or positions, trembles and wastes strength in preparation. The hidden force has already won before the first clash of steel. So it is with you. Unreadability is not absence of action, it is the action that precedes victory. Let's explore a cultural example. In Japanese philosophy, the concept of the space between things, emphasizes the power of silence and pause. In traditional tea ceremonies, moments of quiet are as significant as the actions themselves, creating a sense of reverence and anticipation. This cultural reverence for silence reflects a universal truth. What is withheld carries more weight than what is said. In Western contexts, we see this in the allure of the strong, silent type, a figure who commands attention not through verbosity, but through restraint. From Clint Eastwood's stoic characters to the enigmatic presence of a leader like Angela Merkel, silence amplifies authority. The sword of truth. Power thrives in shadows. The sword of truth is this. Weakness is born in exposure. Power in mystery. To master mystique is to become untouchable. Do not let the world read your every page. Let them fear the chapters they cannot see. The open scroll is torn apart. The locked chest is feared, even if empty, because no one dares risk what lies inside. You do not need to be loved or understood. You need only to be beyond grasp. The storm on the horizon is feared not for what it reveals, but for what it hides. Become that storm. Stand in silence and let the world tremble. Let's apply this to everyday life. In a workplace meeting, the person who speaks sparingly, choosing their words with precision, commands attention. Their silence forces others to lean in, to wonder what they're holding back. In a social setting, the one who listens more than they speak becomes the enigma, drawing others toward their quiet presence. Even in personal relationships, restraint breeds desire, while oversharing breeds contempt. Every piece of information you reveal is a brick removed from your fortress. Every piece withheld is a stone added to your walls. Consider a practical exercise. For 1 week, practice withholding one unnecessary comment each day. When tempted to explain yourself, pause and observe how others react to your silence. Notice how their uncertainty amplifies your presence. This small act of restraint builds the habit of unreadability, training you to wield silence as a weapon. The call to action: forge silence into habit. This revelation must be put into practice, for power is not a thought, but a weapon to be wielded. Stop confessing your doubts to those who will weaponize them. Stop exposing your failures to those who will revel in them. Your thoughts are not currency to be spent, they are armaments to be reserved. Your emotions are not decorations, they are levers to be pulled only when it serves you. The war for power begins with the war for your tongue. Master it, and you master all else. A person who reveals themselves invites betrayal. A person who guards themselves invites fear. Betrayal wounds, but fear multiplies. If you crave applause, you will live and die by betrayal. If you embrace silence, you will rule through fear, not cruelty, but clarity. Those who fear you will not betray you. Those who cannot read you cannot predict you. Those who cannot predict you cannot defeat you. Take this gift of concealment and wield it in every arena of your life. Withhold what others beg for. Conceal what they expect. Deny the crowd the entertainment of your soul. Let them wonder, speculate, fear. The person who gives nothing forces the world to give everything. Let's consider a final example from literature. In Frank Herbert's *Dune*, the character Paul Atreides becomes a mythic figure not through openness, but through calculated mystique. His silence and strategic revelations inspire awe and loyalty, transforming him into a leader who commands planets. His power lies not in what he says but in what he withholds, creating a legend that others cannot resist. This is the archetype of the unreadable leader, a model for anyone seeking true power. Conclusion: the unreadable ruler I return not as the person who began this journey, but as one transformed. The weakness you once carried was not in your circumstances, but in your compulsion to reveal yourself. Exposure is enslavement. Silence is armor. The person who sought applause has died. The one who endured humiliation has been buried. In their place rises a figure far more formidable, the unreadable one, who no longer bleeds for the crowd but makes the crowd bleed for them. Picture the storm. Men fear its thunder, but they fear more the quiet sky before it strikes. Picture the wolf. Its howl is fearsome, but its silent watch in the woods is terrifying. You are no longer the noise, the spectacle, the chatter. You are the pause that unsettles, the silence that bends wills, the shadow that dominates without a word. As you walk back into the world, others will see the same face but feel a different presence. They will not know what you hide, but they will sense you hide something, and that knowledge will bind them. Your weakness has been erased, your silence forged, your power begun. If these words resonate, if you feel the truth awakening within you, know that power begins the moment you choose yourself, even if it means standing alone in the shadows. Are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, even hated? If it means true freedom, declare it with conviction. I choose my silence. Let the world see how many are prepared to walk this path, to pay the price of true strength. This is only the beginning. The next lesson is not comfort, but fire. Seek it out, for it matters more than you know.